Welcome to 4.0 to Pro, the pickleball podcast that focuses on a single shot, tip, or strategy to improve your pickleball game with every single pocket-sized episode. Our goal is to make you better on the court every time you hear our voices.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of 4.0 to Pro, your pocket-sized pickleball podcast, where we teach you a single shot or strategy every single episode. I'm Michael O'Neill here in sunny Long Beach, California, joined by the Grandmaster, Mircea Marariu. What's up, dude?
How you doing? How you doing, my friend?
You've just heard your new nickname for the first time, and it's the perfect nickname for the chess master that you are. You are the Grandmaster.
That's
pretty
way
good.
Too much. That's way too grand and way too much hyperbole for anyone to bestow upon me. So
good though, baby.
I'm not sure I like that one, but
it's going to be embroidered on something sooner than later. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a Q&A show. We haven't done one in quite some time, and we always love these because it allows us really to plug into what you guys are struggling with at this very moment before we dig into it. However, Mircea, we have sold our fourth and final VIP slot for our camp in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which is May 29th through the 31st. We still have a few spots left of the standard camping spots. I can't remember how many, but again, they're moving. It's a thing. We're going to have so much fun with this camp. We're so excited about it being at the fort. You just competed at the fort this weekend. I believe I saw a silver and a gold or so.
Yep. We won mixed doubles with my partner, Audra Spielberger. Fortunate enough to pull it out over Lee Whitwell and Jaime Onsines, who were excellent. And I think they were just crushing the field last year. So we played well. And then Jose DeRisi and I lost in the finals of the men's doubles. And we battled with Jaime and Marcelo Jardim, which is Simone's brother. And they're really tough team.
I have played them.
Came out on top. Yeah.
I have played them. He's a toughie, that Marcelo Jardim.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, if you want to attend the camp, 402p.com/camp, 402p.com/camp. And we have a bunch of really cool questions here, Mircea. I know you haven't really studied a lot of them, so you're going to be hearing them a lot for the first time, but that's okay. We know what we're doing around these parts.
I hope so.
Chef Anton, who was one of our 4 VIPs, in fact, in Fort Lauderdale, he says, if I get lobbed and cannot reach it, so my partner is going back behind me to retrieve the lob. He's a lefty. Not that it totally matters because this is a universal question. Where should I switch to? I'm assuming I should switch to the opposite side, but I don't know if I should go all the way back or if I should stay closer to the tee or middle of the transition zone on the opposite side. Now, before you go, Mircea, I think Chef here is making an assumption that he should switch, and I don't know that's necessarily always the case. Typically, if you and I were playing and someone goes over my shoulder, very often the person on the opposite side can diagonally track it, especially if on their left-hand side and they're going to the forehand side. But the switch is not a default mechanism to me unless someone says switch, and that someone is typically the person who's tracking down the ball.
Absolutely. It should be the person tracking down the ball that determines whether you switch or not. And the short answer to this question, it depends, because there's so many factors in this decision. I'll just use a scenario from today. I was playing with my split-age partner, Mark Dancourt. I was on the right and he was on the left. Someone lobbed over my backhand and I went back and I could see that Mark was off balance. I knew that he was going to lob, and he actually really helped me by saying back lob. He communicated that he wanted me to go back and that he was lobbing. I knew those two things. One thing that is a really good defensive shot is a very high lob. The reason that it's very helpful when it's very high is it's somewhat harder to hit an overhead. You want to hit it very high in the middle of the court so it's safe in the case of any wind. But it's a little harder to hit an overhead when you're outside and it's very high. But it also allows you and your partner more time to reposition yourselves properly. I've played a bunch with Dave Wambach as a partner, and Dave typically gets back very well, and he really likes to drop. So I know that's his tendency. And if someone is balanced and they can hit a nice quality drop back to the non-volley zone, or at least to make the other team hit the ball from low to high below the net, then you might be able to go back up more quickly. But again, it really depends on your partner, and it really should be driven in this case by the person that's going back. So if the person who's going back is off balance, they're more likely to lob, and they might say switch or not. And if they're really well balanced and they have a good drop, they might just say drop or stay. and then you know that you can get back up to the kitchen or stay in the transition zone. So it's really just situationally dependent in this scenario.
Part B of his question was, should I stay more closer to the tee or the middle of the transition zone? Should I go all the way back? It really depends on that next ball. If you got that lob and you've put it down and they hit another lob back, or they've flipped the script on you where you do what you just said, which is put a big lob up for them, all of a sudden then you need to see how good your lob was or where you're going to be on the court. It's all dependent on what that next ball is, basically. But there's no right or wrong there, I think.
It's helpful to communicate with your partner, especially if someone is lobbing repeatedly. One or two over the course of a game may not mean that much. If you are playing a tournament, you definitely need to communicate who's got lob, depending on the mobility, etc. If I'm playing mixed doubles, I always tell my partner, I'm going to get the lob, you duck. And I like them to stay up there for the most part, unless that I can't hit it as an overhead, then I tell them to go back. So I really like to communicate that. One additional little tip, and this just reminds me about overheads and lobs. If someone is lobbed, and let's say your partner is lobbed and they can hit an overhead and they're back somewhere in the transition zone. When they hit an overhead and your opponents can hit the ball back relatively hard or hit like a medium pace drive, that ball is always going back towards your partner. Nature abhors a vacuum. So when your partner is leaving that space unintentionally because they are pushed back with a lob and they hit a decent overhead, that ball almost always goes back there. It's 99.99% of the time. So I typically, as a partner, I always poach into that space. That's one little nugget / pro tip that you can use during your rec games, and you can test the hypothesis.
Part of the reason why they're lobbing at all is it really does create such chaos. And strategically, to flip the script on this, Chef, if you are playing with, I'm going to say, especially a lefty-righty team, if you know that they're new and they haven't played together much, a lob, especially in the middle, is such a great strategic ball because they're not used to communicating yet. And a lot of people that we play with literally don't listen to this show, aren't used to having these conversations with their partners. This is not a thing that you hear very often. So I think there's a strategic advantage there. And you are obviously, Chef, a lefty. So it's one of those things that you're going to have to note in your pickleball career.
Talk about it more during the camp when Chef
Indeed,
comes
we
out.
can.
So looking forward to that.
Next question is really an interesting one. So William Brown, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's a huge, long question, but basically the breakdown was the advantage of statistics in studying pickleball games. And what he's asking is, are there any specific products that you can use for data analysis? And the only one I think even comes close is Swing Vision, which is the app for the iPhone that uses AI to track the game. Not a sponsor at all, but the pro version of Swing Vision is pretty remarkable. You can hit record and it'll record the entire game, but on playback, it'll eliminate all the stuff in between the serves. Like it automatically edits the game so that it's just the game itself. And I do think they have some statistical tracking, if not planned, they have some built into the pro version of Swing Vision. Otherwise, I think it's literally going through film and documenting it like you're watching a baseball game in 1985. And you have that little chart that we all used to have.
Yeah, I will say that there is an increasing emphasis on statistics. And as with everything, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics, as I'm sure you've heard. But it's becoming more relevant in pickleball and more accepted. And there is a guy, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, but I'm friends with him on Instagram. But the account is called Real Clear Stats. And again, that's Real Clear Stats on Instagram. And he's been doing a lot of analysis. He's really taken a deep dive into a lot of pro level matches and offering some really interesting insights. Funny enough, I saw some statistics from the recent Georgia Johnson and Tyra Hurricane Black match against Catherine Parento and Lee Waters in the finals of the North Carolina PPA. And it just confirmed basically the eye test because I watched the entire match. And it was really interesting to see some of the stats in terms of the speed ups and hand battles. But it's definitely getting more accepted and will be more relevant the more we go along, especially for the pro game. So if someone is interested in accessing these types of stats, maybe you can send your videos of your games to real clear stats and see if they can help you out.
That'd be very cool. One of the things we're actually doing for our VIPs at the camp is recording video, and then Mircea and I will be going over the video like telestrator style for the NFL, walking the people through, okay, here's where you were standing, here's where the ball was, here would be a better place to be, or here's how your paddle should have been, or something like that. We're going to be breaking things down like that. It's, to me, one of the coolest parts of the VIP part of our camp. This is pretty funny. Sean Moi, I'm not sure if I said that right at all, but says, how do I avoid a chicken wing? That's the answer to the age-old question. The only thing I can think of, Mircea, before you dig into your Mircea-ness, your grandmasterness, is that if someone is sitting backhand, meaning they're really holding their paddle on the backhand side across their body, they are much more susceptible to a chicken wing on the forehand side than other people that might be holding it at 10 o'clock or noon or in a slightly more neutral position.
Yes, sir. I agree. And it's funny because this also came up today during the practice with Mark Dancourt. We were playing two guys, one of whom is Reed. So sorry, Reed. I was playing directly across from Reed because the other guy was a lefty and Reed is a righty. And I've played him. He's a really quality player. I played him a ton. And this is one of the first times that I was directly across from him consistently because we usually don't play with lefties when I play with him. And I was just repeatedly going cross body to his right hip or right shoulder and just getting him on the chicken wing side so much. And he finally started adjusting. And so what you need to do is either hold your paddle in a more neutral ready position. So instead of holding backhand, hold either neutral or maybe to the right slightly if someone is hitting you on the right side repeatedly, assuming you're a righty, and then vice versa if you're lefty. But the other way to do it is anticipate it and slide one way or another. So if you're more comfortable with hitting that backhand counter, then maybe you slide a little bit to the right. Right as they're about to hit the shot, you shuffle slightly to your right, and that way you will have that backhand target, hopefully, or you shuffle slightly to your left and then you have your forehand a little bit more ready. You can do it like a scorpion style where you have the paddle up above you. I'm not a huge fan of that, but you can try to keep your forehand at your right shoulder if that's where they're aiming. But you just have to anticipate it and you have to shuffle slightly from one side to another. But one thing that I did today, for example, I started noticing that he was sliding. I would just adjust my position of attack and basically just go straight right at him. And he was getting really frustrated. And he was yelling at his partner, damn it, he keeps getting me. And I've played him 100 times and I know where he's hitting the ball.
You just noticed it today, though. Or that's the thing, is that certainly at that level, and this isn't for everybody, but this is a fun thing to try, you guys, is that when you've got someone that you play all the time, if you start noticing some of these things, I have intel on many of the people that I play where I just know that someone's going to be susceptible on one side or the other or whatever. I think, if anything, a lot of the shows we've been doing more recently, certainly with Mircea, have a much more cerebral idea behind them where you go, this game can be easier than you're making it by starting to notice some of the tendencies of the people that you're playing. It's not always easy when you're in a tournament setting, but when you're in rec playing, you play the same people a lot, which 95% of us do all the time. Even if you're sitting down and watching a game, if the only thing you notice is how do they hold their paddle when they're at the net? What are they doing? Are they susceptible to a chicken wing? Do they have a killer backhand counter? Will they just snap it? Or if you aim at that left hip, is it something that you can take advantage of? And I think the big difference with Rich and some of the higher level pro types is that you might walk in with a certain tendency and they'll pick on it. And then the higher level players will say, oh, they've noticed this tendency and they'll go away from it. And then you've got a bit of a chess match where you're fortunate that the grandmaster is right there next to you on court.
Exactly. Like today, what I started doing was basically, again, I'm on the right, he's directly across from me on the left. So I started going a little bit outside with my forehand speed up. So basically a little bit down the line where I would get a cross court dink to my forehand and it would pull me out a little bit. And I was able to curl the ball around him, basically trying to keep it slightly out of his reach, knowing that when he counters, it would just go straight back at me, high to my forehand. And so then I pulled him over. And then after that, I went chicken wing side. And then when he started shifting to the left, I started just going back to the same spot, going straight ahead, going body. And so the biggest thing is whenever you are attacking, instigated, whatever you want to call it, when you're speeding up, make sure you're speeding up for the next ball. I was trying to speed up and get my partner mark the ball or get myself back the ball where I expected and I was waiting for the next one.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Based on our conversation we had a couple of weeks ago now with David Wells, who's the founder of Yobo, that my Yobo percussion massage gun now sits either in the console of my car or basically right next to me on the driver's seat. Because as I'm driving in to go play pickleballs, I start working on my thighs and my arm and my calves. And with this gun, I've got a 24-minute drive from here to Los Cab. And by the time I get there, I got some blood flowing and I've got my muscles are starting to loosen up a little bit. And especially if I end up sitting out a game, if you guys are over 50 years old and you sit out a game or two, things can get stiff. You can start feeling a little wonky. It's really nice to have this super compact, very beautifully built massage gun in your bag, Mircea.
Yeah, isn't it great? The battery life is amazing. And it's really durable. And unfortunately, I've tested this because I've dropped it like 100 times and it's unfazed at my clumsiness. So the other thing is it makes a great gift. It's really not very expensive and people love it. It's just a really awesome tool to prevent injuries and keep you playing out there.
It is indeed the gift that keeps on giving, used by the pros like this one on this show to improve mobility and accelerate recovery after workouts. Their Backpack Plus kit includes this massage pistol. So this is Yobo, everybody. They have a wonderful kit that we've both been using to warm up on the courts. If you don't have any other way, you go out at the rec courts, there's nothing else around. People get injured if they don't warm up. And that is just the truth of pickleball. We've all felt that way. We get to the courts. You can see your buddy unloading the car. And if you don't get on court, you're going to miss that first game. You're going to be sitting it out. So you jump on, take basically no warm up, then you pull a hammy and you're out for 6 weeks because you didn't take the literal 5 to 10 minutes to warm your body up. You can change all of that with Yobo's Backpack Plus, including this massage pistol. So you just go to 402p.com/warmup, 402p.com/warmup for 10% off your order at Yobo. Thank you to Yobo, as always, for helping us and sponsoring the show. Go get your massage guns, you guys. You'll feel a lot better.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
TaxAct knows small business owners can sometimes use a little help with their taxes. That's why TaxAct has Expert Assist, a team of live tax experts ready to answer any questions you may have. Think of them as your own personal sidekick. Not like one of those funny talking animal sidekicks, more like the super smart nerding out on tax code and business casual attire sidekick, but just as helpful and lovable. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Next question's from Nate. Hey guys, love the podcast. Thanks for all you do. Question, I'm a 3.5, 4.0 and struggling in competitive matches with a problem maybe you guys can help address. I'm tall with long arms. Oh, poor you, Nate. And in competitive games, the opponents will usually be intimidated by me at the net and hit almost exclusively to my partner. On the left side, I can pinch right a little, but I don't have the skills to play big left without exposing my backhand. When I'm on the right, I do try to pinch left, but I'm forced to rely on my backhand and also a right side. Trying to cover the middle sometimes throws off my teammate. Most of the events seem to be me ending up as a cheerleader with an intimidating presence. My partners often get overwhelmed getting attacked repeatedly. If you have any tips, it would be appreciated. He's getting ISO'd is what's happening, Mircea.
He is. Sounds like he's a large person and with long arms and getting iced out quite a bit. So now at this point, it's creating patterns and creating communication with your partner and practice. So you try to figure out patterns that can get you the ball. So there's a couple things. One is where you and your partner are dinking. Let's say hypothetically, you're on the left, your partner is on the right, and they are getting isolated. Most likely in this scenario are dinking cross court and less likely to be dinking straight ahead, because when the ball is going cross court, it's going really away from you and it's more difficult to track those down as a left side player unless people are popping the ball up. So one thing you can ask your partner to do is, if they can, try to dink a little bit more straight ahead. So if they dink straight ahead and they're targeting your partner, the person on the left may dink straight ahead to your right side partner, and you may be able to take that ball much more easily because the dink is straight. So it's not a cross-court dink with an angle going away from you. Yes, you will have to expose something, meaning that you'll have to expose your backhand a little bit, but hopefully you can create that pattern where you start getting a little bit more of the dinks. What may happen is, if your partner is successfully dinking straight ahead, then maybe that left side player may start dinking a little bit more to your backhand to try to keep you over there. Another thing that you can do is ask your partner to start speeding up or being a little more aggressive more quickly. So if your partner is getting attacked and not doing well with that, then you have to flip the script. So you have to be a little bit more aggressive, and you have to communicate with your partner, hey, we're getting attacked, we're getting down in the points, so let's try attacking a little bit sooner and try to get more balls that are a little bit high, and that way we can pounce a little bit more. Because if you keep getting attacked and you're getting down in the points, you really need to flip that script and start attacking sooner. Now, you do have to communicate targets. It's really helpful if you tell your partner, please attack straight ahead at the person in front of you on the right side of their body, and try to hit their right hip or right shoulder or wherever it is that you choose to try to have an effective attack or speed up. And that way, hopefully you'll get more balls. And in that scenario, if your right side partner attacks straight ahead, you as the left side player will pinch more middle and look to get something with your forehand, because hopefully you will get that triangle formation where your partner attacks straight ahead, that person counters a little bit to the middle, and you will have your forehand there. Those are some things you can do to try to create some more offense and some more balls to come to you.
This feels like every Instagram post where they show a pro point and then 3/4 of the people are like, ball hog, and the guy's coming all the way over into the right side player. And the reason they're doing that, everybody, is because otherwise they wouldn't touch the ball. They would not see a ball. J.W. Johnson would not see a ball the entire game if he didn't play big in the middle. And that's just the way it goes. Where do you stand, Mircea, on Nate really going heavy enough in the middle to where they're forced to start going behind him on his backhand, and then he at least has some gauge of how much they're trying to isolate him out?
It depends on where the dinks are going, how accurate the other players are. If you're 3-5 to 4-0, I imagine that the dinks aren't that consistent. One thing that I would definitely do is practice moving more, regardless if you get the ball or not. And I actually discussed this with Julie Johnson before J.W. Johnson's and his sister Georgia's recent gold medal match against Ben and Anna Lee.
It was incredible, by the way.
Yeah, that was amazing. But at times when I was seeing them play and when I was coaching them, this is what sometimes would happen. Georgia is really a strong player, and she's gotten better, and had a lot of confidence. So he doesn't really need to come over to protect her in terms of getting attacked, because she can handle it well. But when she is dinking cross court, which is obviously the most common pattern in mixed doubles, especially at the pro level, JW wasn't quite moving enough, even though he didn't necessarily need to get the ball, but it's helpful to distract your opponent by at least thinking that you are going to poach somewhat. So I think
shrinking their window a little bit, right?
Exactly. So you're narrowing the lane that they can dink to, and hopefully they take their eye a little bit off the ball, or they think, okay, wow, he's really moving a lot. I got to go hit behind him. And sometimes what you can do is you can fake right and go back left, and at least make them think, put some pressure on them rather than just standing there. And especially if you have a lot of reach, sometimes just go and try to go get the ball, and make sure you tell your partner, I'm going to try to get some more balls, get a little bit bigger, be ready if I miss, because I've done this a bunch where I think the ball is accessible to me and I don't really have very long arms, and I go out and swing at it, but I can't get it. And fortunately, my partner is often ready, and my mixed partner for a long time was Julie Johnson. So she was really great at just being ready when I just didn't get a ball, or I was trying to get it and the wind blew it away from me, or I just misjudged it. And it's really helpful for the partner to just keep that concentration. It's not easy, but definitely moving more is going to help you in this scenario.
Yeah, and having that conversation with your partner, obviously, to say, look, because this is happening, and maybe that's a little weird sometimes, depends on what the partner feels about it. But to your point, especially in that Georgia Johnson game, she was just getting shellacked. They were ripping it at her, and she was fine. She was having no problem whatsoever with it. It was really impressive.
Her hands, when you're on the court with her and against her, it's really fun because the hand speed and natural talent is just off the charts and always has been. And what's really been the difference over the last year or so is that her footwork has really improved, and it's made a huge difference. If you watch her and Tyra defend, that's one thing I would recommend. It's a little off topic, obviously, but I was really impressed with how well they defended in the Women's Pro North Carolina PPA match. When they were back or they were being pushed back, both of them split step, stable base, leaning forward, incredible defense, which was predicated on their court positioning and their quality footwork and torso positioning. That was really the key, and you can really learn a lot by seeing that. That just epitomizes all we talk about on this pod.
The third piece of that, the split step, stable base, and leaning forward, the leaning forward part has been a focus of mine over the last probably 3 weeks or so, because I found myself being in maybe a hands battle or something, and I would find myself leaning straight up or even a little bit back. And it really compromised my ability to counter and make offense because I was in a very defensive position, and it opened my pad a little bit. I think it's a topic for a show that we should talk about in the future.
I agree.
Sarah Duthie says, hi, I'm a 3.7 duper, used to playing against 4.0 players in tournaments. Would I fit into your camp? I'd really love to do it, but I don't want to be the lowest player that nobody wants to play with. Do you have hotel recommendations if I said do it? And I love your podcast. It's really helped my mental game and visualization. Thank you so much. So first and foremost, Sarah, absolutely. Many of the people that have signed up for the camp are right in that exact wheelhouse. In fact, I would say that we have a fair portion of our listenership that is right there in that 3.75 to 4.25 range. And maybe I should have named the show 3.5 to Pro. Who knows? But typically, my idea behind 4.0 is that a 4.0 player is often very interested in improving. They're actively trying to get better at pickleball, where I think a lot of people in that 3.5 range like to get cute outfits and hang out and have a fun time on a Saturday morning. And that's where they like to live. And it's super fun and fantastic. It's the essence of what pickleball is all about. But I do find that people that are starting to get a little bit better have maybe a little bit more of a competitive spark and are actively participating in their process. And if that's the case, you are a perfect person for our camp, which is 402p.com/camp. And in terms of hotels, I don't, but I just hotel tonight. I just do the hotel tonight thing on the app. There's a ton of hotels around. There's an airport right there, right?
Yep, there is. We're right by the airport. You can go to booking.com. I use that a lot. And I will try to pick out some hotels and we will email them to all the people that participate in the camp. We'll talk to the fort and I know that they'll have some recommendations. So if you sign up for the camp, we will send you an email with a few suggestions that are nearby. Try to get a smattering of the different price ranges. But Fort Lauderdale has a lot of great dining options. So we're going to try to give people some suggestions for dining and some other additional things that they can do while they're down there, because we want this to be an entire experience, not just the pickleball. The pickleball is obviously going to be the key thing we're focusing on, and we're going to have a lot of that. So excited to get into that.
We'll make you better. We'll make it fun. Next question is, what's your favorite pickleball shoe? And I will say on my viewpoint, Mircea, pickleball shoes aren't exactly like tennis shoes, because to me, I feel like I'm doing a lot more lateral in a more compact period of time. And I've gone through pretty much every major brand, and I've had a number of different favorites.
My favorite at the moment right now is PP5 Star, and it's pp5star.com, I believe, but it's the Court 2. They came out with some new shoes recently. I was given a pair to try, and it was the first pair that I've literally ever tried that did not need to be broken in. I've had a ton of shoes I've enjoyed in the past, but they typically have a day or two to break in. My feet are a little bit sore. It's not really a big deal. And then
I can get a little crampy when I have new shoes like that.
Yeah, and I never wear new shoes like the day of the tournament or something like that. But these were really super comfortable. Now, obviously, this is somewhat of a personal preference, of course. I've used, yeah, exactly, for PB stuffs. I've tried the K-Swiss, which I like because they're light. Sometimes the sport isn't that great, and I go through shoes pretty quickly. And it's funny because I hear people complain. They'll say, "Oh, my shoes have only lasted 6 months. Does anyone have recommendations about shoes?" And I just kind of laugh. I was like, "I've never had shoes last 6 months ever. Mine are like 2 months max." And to me, if they're lasting 6 months, that means that your footwork isn't that great. I'm sorry, you're just not moving your feet enough.
Yeah. Toe dragger? Because I'm still a bit of a toe dragger.
I am, for sure. On the right side, right side immediately. That's really where my shoes were at. But I've tried K-Swiss, which I like. They're light. Tyrol, Tyrol, have some really quality shoes those are the ones that lasted the longest for me. They're a little bit heavy for me, but they have excellent support and they're really quality shoes. I've used Asics in the past, which I also like. They're also slightly heavier. I've tried the Skechers, which are also similar to the K-Swiss. They're lighter, but I have to say the PB 5-star have been like by and far my favorite.
I burned through so many Skechers that ripped in the exact same spot. Like just literally the same spot over and over again. I was just like, all right, Skechers, you're going to have to figure this out until the toe stops ripping off your shoe. I've got a couple pairs of Babolats now that I just got a couple weeks ago that I really like. Tough for them. They've been doing it for 50 years or whatever. Anyway, check them out. PB 5-star, .com. Many 4.0 players feel that playing rec games against better players will be their ticket to 5.0 plus. What do you feel is needed on top of just rec games, or do you feel there are other important factors outside of rec games you'll feel have a greater impact on future success? I don't think that playing those rec games will have any factor on their success. I think it's drilling and practice that will have, but that's just me.
Definitely drilling, definitely practice. And there are a host of other things that you can do, including, for example, listening to the podcast. There you go.
That's right.
Yeah.
How many things you hear on this very show.
Low-hanging fruit there, Michael. Thank you for that one. But seriously, definitely the off-the-court training where you do some sort of functional exercises and you don't necessarily need to lift weights. I do because I enjoy it. I've done it forever. I do some flexibility things. I do quite a bit of functional training. I do some fitness classes. One of the businesses that we just started, it's pretty cool that we've done some high intensity interval training classes as part of our 4-employee group, which is basically 2 other partners and one additional employee. And so we've been doing those Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they've been really great. And another thing you can do is just really watch pros play or watch higher level play on YouTube, which is really one of the ways I felt like I tried to improve in terms of strategy and court positioning when I was just starting. And then it's so easily accessible on YouTube, and you have the different pro games that are broadcast, the PPA on Pickleball TV, and they have an app. But YouTube is just free and it's always there. You can just Google pro level play and it's pretty easy to check out. One thing that I really enjoyed was watching matches following one player at a time. So I'd watch an entire match just looking at one player and what kind of patterns they created, what kind of tendencies they have, what their paddle angle is, what their core positioning is, strengths and weaknesses. And I did this when I started coaching MLP and when I was coaching Georgia and GW regularly. I really helped me in the coaching aspect, but even more really helped me devise strategies and patterns in my own play, and it made a huge difference. So that's something that I think not that many people do, and it's really helpful instead of just watching for entertainment. So just pay attention to the patterns that are created, and when people dink in certain spots, what do you expect is going to happen? And then you can look at it right in front of you and see that when so-and-so dinks to someone's backhand, that ball always goes cross court, or it tends to go cross court. And when certain paddle angle changes, then a speed up is coming. So I really enjoy that part of the game. It helps me visually. And that's one thing that can help. I will say that I do think you really need to play against better players to get better, but it's really important to play against players of your own level and sometimes players a little bit below your level to have that variability.
Yeah, and I would say you got to embrace the suck as well. If you work on something as you're drilling and you say, okay, I'm going to integrate this into my play, you're probably going to drop down and miss a bunch of shots, and you're going to be working on a thing that's going to send balls long or send them into the net. And you have to go through that process. apologize to your partner and go, look, I'm working on my flick from the left-hand side. If I get a high cross-court dink, and I'm going to go for it. So I apologize if I don't hit all of them, because it's going to be a thing. And that's okay. You're not being charged for it.
One more thing along these lines. It's important to play with higher level players, but don't make it too high level, because that's not really going to be fun for you or for them. And what tends to happen is you may lose some confidence, because not only are you getting crushed, but you're just not getting any good balls. And it might be you, might be your partner, might be both of you. But it can really harm your confidence if you're, for example, a 4-0 player and you're playing against 5 plus players and the games are not going well. As long as you're getting good quality points, then please keep on, soldier on, get better, and challenge yourself. But it really, you do have to keep that in mind, that if you're getting just crushed, it's not really that fun for you or your opponents.
Okay, lastly but not leastly, Eddie Romero, how do you mentally prepare for a tournament, especially if in a previous tournament you don't perform as expected? I would say, you are yawning through tournaments now because you play so many. For those of you that don't play tournaments very often, it can be very nerve-wracking. I think it's really helpful to do a debrief on what didn't work the last tournament, where you perhaps needed to improve. Many times it's just consistency and going for shots that you know you can hit for serves and thirds. Get those in. If there's something else and you found that you were very nervy or something, then I like to focus on routine. If you have a hard time with your serve, I've said on this show, my first tournament ever, I missed 27 serves in 2 games. My first 2 singles pickleball games, I missed 27 of them in a huge square box. And I had 20 years of tennis behind me. It was crazy, but that was just all nervy. And I got the yips and I just couldn't seem to hit a ball in the court. So I think not only having that drilling, but having an idea of your routines and hitting the serve exactly the same every single time and picking a target and hitting the serve there. And then in the points, are you paying attention to the world around you? Are you going for shots you shouldn't go? I think the more you have some stability in that preparation for it, and this is something that Mircea harps on all the time, there's things you can control. You can control your body and how you prepare for the tournament. You can control your shots and the selection. And there are things you can't control, like it's windy this day, or there was rain and you got delayed 4 hours or whatever. Some of those things are tough to overcome for someone who doesn't have a lot of tournament experience.
Yeah, and this varies depending on your previous experience. So if you've only played a few tournaments, it might be that you just don't have the experience and it just takes some time. If you played a tournament with a brand new partner that you've never played with, that may be an issue for you. And so you may need to get a more regular partner or try to prepare better with your partner. When you are not performing as well as you expected, you have to do some introspection or ask other people to give you some feedback, and hopefully some constructive, positive feedback, or possibly some constructive criticism about what you need to do to work on your game to get a little bit better. I 100% agree that the preparation is key and the routine is key for myself, that I really like to do simple things that allow me to know that at least physically and mentally I would be prepared in terms of paddles. I'll do my grips. I'll prepare my bag. I just like that routine, and it just helps me.
Yeah, we did a whole show on it.
Yeah, we did an entire show on it. Ultimately, you have to figure out why you didn't perform as expected and try to do those things better. And maybe a host of different factors, but it's really key that you focus in and try to really analyze yourself, your partner, and do that going forward.
Yeah, very much. And good luck. The best thing you can do over and over again is just keep registering for tournaments and getting used to it. Because the more comfortable you are on that 002, on that first day, I tend to be, weirdly, Mircea, I tend to be fine. And then it's the third game that gets me nervous for some reason. I get in and I'm feeling pretty good. This is what happened at the NPL thing, is I felt really good. And then the third game, I got a little nervy, which was interesting. Yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you, as always, for listening to the show. 402p.com/camp. While we were recording this, we got another camper that just registered. Very nice. Thank you, Lynn. We'll see you, Lynn, in Fort Lauderdale. It feels like a drive, like a fundraising drive. All right, Lynn, let's get it. And that also, 402p.com/warmup. Get yourself your Yobo warm-up kit, the Backpack Plus, which includes that lovely little percussion gun that we were talking about, the massage pistol, which lives in my console or on the seat next to me, and it lives in Mircea's bag as well.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, guys, you guys keep on rocking. Enjoy the courts this weekend. And we appreciate your questions as always. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to 4.0 to Pro. For more tips, find us on Instagram at 4.0 to Pro. If you have a pickleball question, submit it at picklehelp.com. Now, get out there and dominate. But don't forget to have fun.